안내 말씀드리겠습니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Conference room number 2, International Robot Business Conference will take place. For those outside, please make your way to the hall and take your seat.
다시 한번 안내 말씀드리겠습니다.
Allow me to make an housekeeping announcement again. International Robot Untitled Conference will take place at conference room number 2. For those outside, please make your way to the hall and take your seats.
추첨해가지고 들어가는데 되는 사람 다 올 거 아마.
그럴까요? 그러면 달라요 진짜로?
부르지 마. 참석하신 분 중에 추첨을 통해서 많은 경품을 드립니다.
다시 한번 안내 말씀드리겠습니다.
Allow me to make an housekeeping announcement. International Robot and Untagged Conference will take place at conference room number 2. For those who outside, please make your way to the hall and take your seats.
PD님 시작하겠습니다. 하고. 지금부터
컨퍼런스룸 2번에서
Allow me to make an housekeeping announcement. International Robot and Untact Conference will take place at Conference Room 2. For those outside, please make your way to the hall and take your seat.
시작하겠습니다.
We'd like to start the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 2021 International Robot and Untact Conference will begin.
인지과학산업협회 임병옥
I'm Im Byung-ok, Director of National Association of Cognitive Science Industries. Good afternoon.
코로나19의 영향으로 외국
Because of the COVID-19, we are limited to doing outdoor activities, but I'd like to thank all the participants and keynote speakers for your presence despite your busy schedule. So today's conference
한국 로봇산업협회가
is hosted and organized by Korean Association of Robot Industries and also co-hosted by Korea Electronics Technology Institute. Rapid advancement is taking place in drones. So with experts, we'd like to talk about the current status of the drone industry and landscape. So please refer to the leaflet we distributed for further information, and please make sure that your cell phones are turned off or put them on vibration mode so as not to distract the program. Before we start, President Hee Chung-kwon of National Association of Cognitive Science Industries will deliver a congratulatory remarks. Good afternoon, I'm Hee Chung-kwon. Over the last 2 years, we have been carried out robot events. And last year, in the midst of the COVID-19, we carried out an offline event. And following last year, this year, we are currently carrying out a hybrid format of event, online and offline. And despite your busy schedule, many participants are joining us today. So I hope you will be able to get information from those experts so that we can wisely overcome the COVID-19. Thank you very much for your participation. I wish a successful conference. Thank you. Then, from now on, we'd like to start 2021 International Robot and Untact Disaster Safety Conference. So, as the first speaker, under the theme of utilization of robot police, Superintendent Jin Lee of Seoul Metropolitan Police and Director of Hwayang Sub Police Station will deliver her first presentation. Could you please check the slides?
네, 안녕하세요.
Good afternoon. As I've been introduced, I'm Superintendent Jin Lee of Hwayang Police Substation. I'm going to talk about how to use robots for public security. So scientific technologies and robots and drones are not my expertise, and I have been working for public security as a police. So today I'm going to talk about the views and perspectives of police on the ground. So when it comes to robots and technologies should be combined so as to complete my presentation fully. So this is the table contents. I'm going to talk about scientific public security and where it is today. And I'm going to introduce some robot police projects in other countries. And also I will introduce scientific public security in other countries as well. And also I will touch on how to apply those projects and solutions to our public security landscape. Robots and AI can be distinguished clearly between one another, but we are today talking about AI-based robots, so I don't think it is meaningful to distinguish AI and robots. And in police, including robots, there is a term, scientific public security. It means policing combined with scientific technologies. And the below are was released by Samuel Noon, and it is 7 elements of scientific police. So let me briefly touch on this. First is biometrics. DNA, fingerprints are used for it, and monitoring includes CCTV or traffic surveillance cameras. And these elements are not distinguished from one another, and they are converged for utilization. So I don't think it is very meaningful to, it is not meaningful to distinguish them between one another. And regarding scientific public security, we need to think about smart policing, which has been touched a lot by police. And you can find strategic management, analysis and research, and technology. So SMART stands for those 3 words. And there are many incidents and actions that requires police responses, but manpower budgets are limited to respond to such events. So how to utilize scientific technologies to respond to crimes? This is what we have been thinking about, and we need to create a strategy based on that. And next is PredPol. It is for predictive policing. It is a predictive policing system. So many people have studied how to prevent crimes in advance. So based on accumulated criminal and crime data, we can predict when and how a crime can be occurred. So this is a system for prevention of crime. I'm going to touch upon this later. Then let's look at the current situation of scientific public security in Korea. First, it's smartwatch for our own security. For example, if your ex-boyfriend comes to you and hits you, then or someone is stalking you, then we can designate a person who is followed by stalkers as a person to protect. So we give smartwatch to them, and they can push the SOS button, then it can send signals to us, and it is equipped with GPS sensors, so we can in real time we can track such person. And smart petrol cars have many technologies, and one is it is equipped with infrared cameras, and the other technology applied to this smart petrol car is that it can detect license plates so that it can find and search warranted vehicles. It is not yet commercialized. And I have been working in the busiest police substation in Seoul, but we have not yet utilized such smart petrol cars. And third is AI-based crime and terror response system. In 2017, it was adopted, and by 2025, the development process will be finalized. And currently, police is using many systems, for example, 911 system and criminal investigation system and other investigation systems as well. And those systems are integrated into one. So if a terror attack happens somewhere, then it can be prevented in advance using this system. In a foggy day, some people are expected to raise a riot. Then, considering climate weather event information, so this system can predict when the foggy will be thickest, so it can make decisions about where and when such terror attacks could happen. So 911 report will be automatically made on that day. Then police can prevent such crimes, and they can catch criminals. So this system is under development. And last but not least, public security for drones. And I'm going to touch on drones later, going forward. So I believe the drone will be covered by other speakers of the conference. And overseas already, robot police has been adopted, and this is a robot cop applied in Dubai from 2017. Sound is a bit slow. So it is 167 centimeters and it weighs 100 kilograms. So she says it's like a real person. So you can see the screen on the robot and you can report crimes and you can pay some taxes and fines and it can automatically move and it can speak 9 languages. And as you can see in real time, just like a CCTV, it can take photos and it can send to the police command and control centers. So it can analyze facial expressions of a person and it can recognize how the person feels. Of course, the accuracy is not yet high, but it can take photos of people and it can send them to the station, so it can filter in a second phase. So by 2030, the Dubai government will replace police with this robot by 25%. And next is in California, Huntington, park police is being utilized, and it has been utilized since 2009. And this robot police can rotate 360 and it is equipped with wheels. And just like a CCTV, a camera is mounted on this robot. And it can talk, it can speak. In a park, it says you should not do that, and it can also give some alarms to people. And next is an example in Massachusetts. It is called Spot, which is a robot dog. So let's watch this. Since August in 2019, it has been utilized for IED team, and it is as high as 84 centimeters, and it weighs 25 kilometers. But many civil societies and civil groups have been claiming that it could violate human rights. So LAPD is not using this robot currently. And it is a robot police called Wall-E in Shanghai. It has been utilized since 2019. Of course, you can find cameras and you can see infrared thermographic cameras. It can send alarms and it can send notices, in particular quarantine measures. It can recognize those who are not wearing masks. And next is an example in Singapore. It is a robot cop called Xavier. The street of Singapore is really clean, so in Singapore, this robot cop can practice some activities regarding people's behaviors, and in real time, it can send photos to the command and control centers, and it can say people to. It can find and detect people smoking in non-smoking area, and it can send an alarm to such smokers. So this is what this robot is doing. And next is an example, traffic police in Beijing. You can see a robot here. It was adopted in this January. So it can move on the railroad, so it can detect vehicles on the side road, driving on the side road. So a policeman can take a photo and a QR code pops up, then you can find where this robot is. It sends an alarm when finding a vehicle violating the lane. And in a highway, if there is an accident, it can send an alarm and take photos and send the photos to the police station so that it can prevent second accident. And also in Korea, rather than robot police, there are some robots for patrol. Some are under development and some are developed. And first is Railroad Patrol Police called NEO. In 2018, it was adopted and it can automatically move, and in an emergency, it can call the staff members of the police department. And the second one is developed by Seoul Metropolitan City, and in outdoor in a park, they will be used, in particular for Hangang River Park and Children's Grand Park. And in an emergency, it can send information to relative agencies. And if it crashes, if there is a car accident or if there are people screaming, then it can detect sound and take photos of the scene and send it to the police. And on the right side, you can find a robot which was designated as a best practice example. It is a robot, small size robot, taking patrols in a park in a nighttime. And next is not a robot, but in other countries, so-called scientific public security. For scientific public security, many activities have been doing in other countries, and this is Predpol that I mentioned before. So it analyzes crime data in the past, and it can predict when and where possible and potential crimes would happen. You can find the environment and repeat victimization and near repeat victimization. So depending on environment, some areas are prone to crimes. For example, if there are many pubs, then people may engage in a fight nearing the dead area. So if there is a shopping mall, then people come to the shopping mall with money, so there might be a potential theft. So depending on environment, some areas are prone to crimes and some are not. And next is repeat victimization. In other words, if I committed a crime, then next I'm likely to commit the same crime in the same place. So if you broke into a house, if you succeeded, then you are highly likely to go to the same house. And next is near repeat victimization. If you broke into a house in Hwayeongdong, and it's less likely for you to go to Jeju Island and commit the same crime. So it means that you are highly likely to commit a crime in an area near where crimes happened before. So just like an earthquake and its aftermath, you are likely to commit a crime in an area where crimes happened before. So based on this information, this system can predict when and where potential crimes would happen. So with this system in the United States, there was a 4% reduction of crime rates. And this is a 3D scanner that can rebuild a crime scene. Indeed, it was used for excavation for ancient sites. It is very small, and with it you can move around and it can scan automatically. Then you can see this 3D mapped graphics. So to conserve the crime scene, we took hundreds of photos, but without doing that today, we can recreate the crime scene. And you can find the crash angle of vehicles and the direction of the cords. In particular, outdoor crime scene, it can be utilized very well. And also it can be referenced by the court. In particular, 3D scanner is mounted on a drone and it can be sent to a disaster site. So just like this, to preserve crime scene, it can be utilized as well. And next is called shot spotter. When there is a gunshot in the United States on the street, and it can detect where that gunshot comes from. there are sensors on every building, and if there is a gunshot on the street, then there is a time difference that such gunshot reaches to the sensor. So, that is calculated by the sensors, and then it can detect where precisely the gunshot was made. Then, if information is detected, then that information is sent to the police. It is very highly accurate, and with this system, the US was able to reduce the crime rate. But it costs a lot, and sometimes it cannot detect gunshot, and it cannot distinguish a gunshot from fireworks or helicopter sounds. So it uses microphones, so it can also record some people's noises and their people's conversations, which may violate people's rights and privacy. Then how to utilize these systems and technologies for public security? So I mentioned about robot police. I believe robots can be used for patrol. And about a year or two ago, many other countries have been using this robot for patrol. But the main purpose of using this robot is to prevent crimes. So you need to go to crime-prone areas. So we need to apply the concept of predpol and so-called ZEPTED. We can prevent crimes depending on the environment. So if there is a bright light and if there are many people, then it's less likely to see crimes. But in a dark area and in a deemed area, then those areas can be regarded as crime-prone areas. So such areas should be included for patrol. And also, residents can ask police to take some patrol activities on their residential areas. And if such a report is sent to the police, then such information is reflected and fed to the smart patrol vehicles. Then every time we pass such areas reported by the residents, then it can send an alarm. So first and second, you need to go to a crime-prone area, and third one is a bit subjective, but anyway, these concepts must be applied for public security using robots. And next is what technologies should be mounted. And as you can saw in many robots used in other countries, so cameras should be mounted on robots so that robots can take photos 360 degrees and send such photos to the station. That would be the best case, but because of the Private Personal Information Protection Act, it will be less likely to be applied. So if there is an accident, or if there is a fight, or if there are huge noises, then such robots can go to those places and take photos and send them to the police. And alarms and notices and some crackdown on behaviors, for these works, also robots can be used. And another one is very particular acts in Korea. About 50% of reports are related to those who are under influence. And in Seoul, every month, at least one case was reported to the police regarding person laying down on the road. So robot can recognize this drunken people and wake him up, and then call 911 to check whether that person is alive or not. So that work can be done by robots for us. So it can detect people laying on the road, and it can check vital signs, and it can report it to the police. And of course, fingerprint checking ability would be good to be applied to the robots. And also we can use robots for finding and searching wanted vehicles. And of course, before that, we need to make sure that GPS sensors are attached. of course, we know some specific vehicle is wanted, but we don't know where it is. But it requires anyway some legal reviews. So in real time, there is no background for real-time tracking of wanted vehicles for a very light crime. So if also it can be used for lost and found, and there are some reports regarding loss of their people's wallets. So this kind of daily life services account for 20% of reports we received every day. So I believe these reports can be handled by robot police. And so far I have been touching on patrol. And if we go to the site after receiving a report, robot cops can assist us. If there is a 911 report received, then words from the report can be extracted and robots can talk about some cases in the past regarding the words. And if you have receive a report regarding someone steals my my objects, then it can be also reported to the police. And also there could be some theft cases, or there could be some stalking cases, and there could be some breaking down cases. So words of the report can be automatically extracted and it can be fed to policemen. Then it would be very helpful. So robots can assist policemen. And robots can arrive the crime scene first before actual policemen come to the crime scene. So robots can take photos of the crime scene and send it to the police. And what would be better is that robots can analyze people in the site. So if someone is holding a knife, then it requires at least 4 patrol vehicles, so it can send information to us. And if necessary, robot can be an interpreter for us. And surveillance of suspects and recording if necessary, and response to drunken people, those works can be done by robots. And if we take a drunken person to the police station, then every 5 minutes that person asks a question, where am I? So it requires at least one person to cover such drunken person. So we need to let him know many information. So maybe we can record what we need to say to that drunken person, and that robot can play our recorded voices to the drunken person. And also, if someone is handcuffed, then we need to let him know why he is handcuffed. So you need to be investigated by the policeman, and also we need to give him notices regarding the arrest. Then in the nighttime, I believe policemen could be able to have less burdens. But the status of robot cops, of course, it is not a human being. We need to think about whether we are going to see it as a human being or an equipment for police. So if someone breaks it down, what kind of law should we apply to? Also, we need to think about if that robot hurts people, who is responsible for this? Whether it be policemen or the developer of the robots or robot manufacturers. So there are many things we need to consider. Also, we also care about the acceptance of citizens. In particular, patrol should make sure people feel relieved, and criminals should feel a bit scared. However, I'm not sure whether people can be relieved by seeing robots patrolling. Also, we need to think about how to make such robots. Whether we should create robots with arms and legs, or we should make a robot just like a car. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
수고하셨습니다.
Thank you very much for your presentation. No matter how smart robot is developed, I believe with us, we have human beings, we have policemen with emotions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
MZ
Next presentation is about security drones usage for MZ generation. Professor Lee Jung-seok will make the presentation. I'm Lee Jun-seok from Yeongnam University, and I'll talk about security drones usage for MZ generation. I've been serving as police for 30 years, and listening to the previous presentation, I know that there were many difficulties. And the connection between security and MZ generation, well, that is not really a harmonious topic, right? So I will be very brief in my presentation and try to explain this connection. So the reason why I'm talking about this topic is that there are many researches done and studies done on applying drone on the site. But most of the police on site are MZ generation. And how can they utilize drones on site and help in their work and enhance safety of citizens? And that relates to leadership. And that's related to authority as well. And also here lies the importance of communication. In other words, the relationship between MZ generation and the Konde generation, or the existing generation, how to enable the communication. Of course, we're talking about drones, but drones, robots, and AI-related technologies. If you consider all these, we have to recognize that society has changed, and we have to prepare for the future. So this is the context of my presentation. So if you look at the drone, young people well-fit drones rather than the older generation. So I just showed you these pictures of how young people use drones. When you talk about generations, we start off with the baby boomers and Generation X and millennials who will be replacing the Generation X, and then there's Gen Z. According to media yesterday, per day, the word MZ generation captured in the big data is about 9,500 or 10,000. So if you compare all this, then Gen Y is not used anymore, and in the millennial is used in that place. And I think millennial word was used because of a word that was published. And from 95 to 2000, these millennials cover about 30 years. Those in their 20s can be included in the same generation as those in their 50s. Is that possible or right? And I do feel that we should look at this from a very critical perspective. If you look at the data, internet, and the media, per generation, there are some characteristics. So the conclusion is the same. The younger generations are well versed in mobile, and they like the smart technology, and they have their own way of doing things. So you have to consider how they think when you work with them in the workplace, and therefore you have to think about the existing generation and what they have, and the thoughts the MZ generation have. And you should compare and also consider the characteristics and our experience in the agricultural society and industrial society, and what Alvin Toffler says about the information society, as well as the future societies that will be highlighted by the Gen Z and the mobile society. And as a way to, you have to consider all these things to talk about the future. And this came out in August 2000. No, it's talking about the characteristics of Gen MZ. No, this is how they think and what they consider. No, what they prefer is talking about themselves, the self. But if you think about it, are we really putting priority on us? What is the existing generation? It's the map generation, mem generation. The map generation. If you give a map to that person, they will sit down and look at the map and decide on whether to ride the airplane, ride the train, and etc. And think and decide on which route to go. But in case of the current younger generation, they are navigation generation. They will follow specifically. You have to give them specific instructions to go left and right. And that is different from what we're used to. We have to be more strict. And that is not bad. Then should we end like that with consideration of the first features of the MZ generation? But in Australia, there's Alpha generation. So what is that? When they're born, they are born with a cell phone. No, they don't watch TV anymore. They watch Netflix and they watch YouTube. So things are changing. So it's different from M generation, Z generation, and Alpha generation, and there will be another generations to come. I brought two pictures with me. If I ask about these to my children, they don't know how to use the phone on the left. They want to push it. They don't want to, no, they don't think about rotating. They don't know how to read the time. They only know how to look at the numbers. They cannot distinguish. And also they don't know the meaning of this motion. Now, before we had to use the phones, but now they don't understand why this signifies telephone. Within our daily life, minute things are changing. So many books are published regarding this. In 2010, a professor wrote a book, and there's a word multi-persona used there. Now, people have different personas. As soon as they get off work, they have a different way of living their personal life. They have different personas for different moments in time. And in the Trend Korea 2022, it's talking about nano society. It's more minute than that, meaning that now we have to be very minute and differentiated in everything that we do. Then what about the existing conventional generation, konde, like latte or in my day, when I was young, when I was your age? But from the younger people's perspective, they do not agree with that. And konde is a very well-used word, and BBC has now highlighted the word konde in Korea. Konde is an older generation who is a condescending person who only talks about their experience. So from a konde's perspective, they say they're too self-centered and etc. And not long ago, more people can gather according to Korean policy. But there are people who do not like that, because why do I have to go to these dinners after work? No, I have my personal time. I need my personal time. I need my space and time. So this is what the Gen Z is saying. So among the younger generation, positions and personalities are divided. Among the younger generation, there are people who act like konde generation. No, can I talk down to you and etc. Because I'm older than you. So why does this happen? Is it an issue of generation difference? I don't think so, because do not look at the generation. We have to look at the society and we have to look at the environment, because think about this drama, Squid Game. This is the generation that we experienced when you're young. Everyone in the neighborhood got together. We had played the games and played and did dalgona and played the games that a lot of games when we were young. But the picture on the left here,
창초표 페스티벌 그렇게 알렸는데 제가 같은 옷에 제페트로 가서 제가
say I went to this festival and went in there as the Petro. I didn't have that much money, so I couldn't even buy a shoe.
그래서 지금
And that's my persona right now. And the environment, it's related to the environment that the younger generations is in. And everyone are communicating by SNS. Is that only limited to the MZ generation? No, it's about adapting to the changes of society. In that sense, rather, it's not about dividing the society generations. Now, this MZ generation is not a generation of issue of generation gap. It's something that has happened in the ancient times, even in the older times in Roma and etc.
먼저 알게 오류가 된 시대였고
And they say that if you know it earlier, you're bad. You have to you have to experience everything, and past is not important anymore.
이 MZ 시대가 처음 나온 이야기가 언제냐면요.
So when this NZ word came out, this book came out in 1991
미국의 이래가는 그 역사 이야기를 하면서
in the US,
한국에서 이어온 그 이야기를
and it talks about William Strauss and Neil Howe talked about the history from 1584, and they started to talk about the word millennials, and then
연구소에서
Pew Research
MZ를 묶어서 마케팅을 왔습니다.
marketed the word
사회학자들이
M generation.
공개적인 사안을 보냈습니다.
And then
마지막 결론은 이렇게
if you look at the conclusion of this book,
세대에 대한 구분을
it's here.
하지 말아라.
You should not be too bold to divide up the generation. We should not talk about difference in generation. And this dichotomy among generations will distance us more.
MZ 세대 이야기를 하다 보니 이제 끝나는데요.
So I talked about the MZ generation.
팀입니다. 서울대 무슨 어느 대학에 보니까 그
In a certain university, and there was a survey, and they say, who do you think you are? And they don't feel that they are a certain generation. The 20s and 40s and 50s. No, we are not that all same. You have to consider the characteristics of society. And the media is only looking at this from the viewpoint of the marketing activities. And they are considering grouping people up in order to engage in marketing activities. So within a generation, there are differences in terms of characteristics and attributes. And if this continues on within a certain society as well, there will be Konde as well as younger people. According to an analysis, younger generation, MZ generation, account for more than 35% of the total employees in the national police. And so if we need to engage in communication, what sort of communication is needed? So we should not focus on only the Konde attitude. Then, if you think about it, police have to have instructions to follow. And with regard to drones, it's about search right now for the time being. And the media is saying that the police is doing a lot of work and making an effort, but we are also receiving some volunteer and assistance from drone operators. However, still a lot of crimes happen around us. And also in other countries, there was a attempt to assassinate a president of a country. And there are many ways to utilize drones, not only in Korea, but also in other countries as well. And this should be pursued in terms of integrating all relevant technologies, such as intelligent technologies, virtual and augmented technology. And we need to utilize this not only in the search side, but also in preventing crimes, and also in terms of crime prevention as well as crime scene analysis, and also moving towards applying it to the blind spots in crime. So there are many areas where we can apply drone technology. For the time being, the police is only limited to search in terms of using drone. It's because people are saying that we cannot trust the police in terms of using personal information. Well, that is true. We are not perfect in that area, but we do need to utilize drones more, and that is the reality. And therefore, we need to have utilized and leverage the younger generation in the police force to lay the foundation for more usage of drones. So I moved on very fast, but still I wasn't able to. I still used up 3 more minutes. No, this is not about generation gap, but this is an issue related to environment. In order to have the same perspective, we should not divide up the generations. And we should have trust within each other and have more communications. And if we use drones, we need to consider the needs that is in the police service and to utilize it more and to provide a better service to the citizens. Thank you.
감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Professor Lee, for your presentation. Recently, my nephew was discharged, and his brother was a high school student, and that younger brother said, I'm gonna get tired if my 꼰대, the older brother, is discharged. So, as you showed us, so analog payphone was used by us, but I want to go back to the time when I didn't know about that. So anyway, under the theme of the MZ generation and utilization of drones for public security was delivered by Professor Lee. And next, Professor Uk Kang of KNPU will talk about legal review of the use of drones for police purposes. And at the end of the last presentation, he's going to also talk about the system for illicit crop cultivation detection system. And currently that system is under development with many organizations. So regarding that project, in particular, he's going to talk about legal issues regarding that program. Are you ready? Okay, please welcome him with a big hand. Good afternoon. I am Professor Uk Kang of KNPU. I'm going to talk about how to detect illicit crop cultivation using drones, in particular regarding legal issues and review. Indeed, it is not an official opinion of Korean National Police Agency. It is my personal opinion. Indeed, there are many issues regarding drones using for these purposes, but many researches have not yet been done. So we have many received advices from many experts, but still this presentation represents my own personal opinion. So until the actual cases are judged by the court, I believe there is a long way to go. So I'm not suggesting some solutions to these issues, but I'm going to say, let's think about these issues. So regarding technologies for searching opium poppies are under development, and we need to think about whether we police can use such technologies. In accordance with the operation principles of drones, we cannot use drones for that purposes. Of course, if we are able to use drones for such purposes, then what kind of legal issues could be raised? So today I'm going to talk about such issues. First, regarding illicit poppies. Illicit poppies are cultivated in many island areas, but investigative agencies to crack down on farmers and such cultivation are using drones. So with naked eye, we are currently searching for such illicit cultivation, but with AI and drones, we'd like to search illegal poppy cultivation. And I'm going to talk about whether we need warrant or not for such drone usage. As you can see on the slide, in particular in island areas, opium poppies are cultivated a lot. So in some areas, opium poppies are grown as some treatment, but still cultivating opium poppies in Korea is illegal. So these are issues that we have been thinking about. When cracking down on illicit poppy cultivation, what kind of issues of the legitimacy could be raised? In particular, images taken by drones and evidence taken by drones, for such evidence to be effective, what we need to do? Indeed, there has little discussion on this. So for investigative agencies, using drones is very hard. And to crack down on illicit cultivation of poppies using drones is very hard. But anyway, we have technologies that can enable us to crack down on it. So before using them, we need to think about legal issues first. So the important key takeaways are this. First is investigative agencies, whether they can use drones or not. And second, whether they can search illicit poppy cultivation using drones or not. And there are three elements. First is the police using drones to crack down on opium poppies cultivation. As you can see, the most important issue is warrant for search and seizure. So if it for crackdown, it requires warrant. But as I mentioned before, cracking down on opium poppies using drones is not practiced, so we need more cases. So there's no case regarding this. So illegal opium poppies, how to detect them? Indeed, poppies are classified as drugs. Therefore, covertly, production in a covert manner or secret production is inevitable. So farmers need to raise opium poppies in their private area, and possession of it as well as cultivation is punishable. You can be fined up to $42,000, and you can be behind the bar for up to 5 years. In particular, possession of weeds could lead to drug addiction as well, and it could lead to some drug distribution. So we need to crack down on the illegal cultivation of poppies. Then the problem is how to find and search cultivation area. We cannot do door-to-door work to visit every farm on the island areas. So using drones, we can detect and find illegal poppy cultivation areas. And I believe it is a part of compulsory investigation, so it requires very careful practices. So this is why we are talking about using drones to crack down on opium poppies. As you know, drone is highly risky. So launching drones to crack down and search for opiums, and streaming is about watching videos, and recording is about recording a video and taking photos. So we thought a lot about each stage and which stage requires a warrant, and we also thought about appropriate legal processes for each stage. So we thought about criminal procedure law. Currently, using drones to search for illicit opiums, there have been no cases at all. So in accordance with the criminal procedure law, we can search opium cultivation area. So from launching, streaming, recording, identifying, at each stage we can do many things. So using drones can be a part of investigation, crime investigation. So regardless of our intention, criminal procedure law could be applied. So to punish the grower in a criminal manner, it requires evidence. Indeed, our intent was not investigation, but for prevention. But regardless of our intention, if it is regarded as an investigation, then we need to apply criminal procedure law. So we have drone technologies developed, but whether there are technologies out there, we need to think about legal issues to utilize such technologies for our police activities. In particular, launching, streaming, recording, and identifying. All these processes are under the criminal procedure law, and we need to think about what parts of the law should be applied for each stage. So operating drone is different from such search and seizure. So operating drones to crack down opium cultivation is different from search and seizure of such cultivation area. So we need to there are some questions whether it requires a warrant or not. If we detect such illegal cultivation area, we need a warrant. And of course, drones in operation do not always record footages. So if it records some footages, then it may require a warrant. And search and seizure is a part of compulsory investigation. And compulsory investigation is being carried out on the ground, not on the sky. That's why we are thinking that basically using drones, we can detect cultivation areas, and for search and seizure, we need a warrant. But before that, to specify cultivation area, whether we need to think about whether we need a warrant or not, just to search an illegal opium cultivation area. So I created 4 virtual scenarios, and each scenario, of course there might be many scenarios, so we distinguished each scenario. And this is the case judged by the Supreme Court. So if you need to enter a place of someone, then it requires a warrant. And depending on the types of the places, you need a warrant or not. So collecting evidence can be classified into open and covert evidence collection. And you need a warrant in advance, or sometimes you can ask and request a warrant later. So depending on this, we created 4 scenarios. So first is the purpose of using drones, whether it is for investigation or it is for patrol or prevention. And second criteria is the characteristic of the place, whether the place is a public place including farmland or mountain, or a place anyone can access to, or it is a private place including gardens that requires some access from the owner. So for each case, I thought about when we need a warrant. For example, first, using drones to identify illicit poppy cultivation place in public place. So this is the case 1, and case 2 is about accidentally you detect illicit poppies in public place, and third is in a private place. For investigation, you detected illicit poppy cultivation, and fourth, accidentally you detect the poppy's cultivation in a private place. So as a result, in the first place, if it is for prevention, not for investigation, do we need a warrant for search and seizure? So with information, if we carry out some investigation, then it requires a warrant. But if you find this illicit cultivation site accidentally, then we need to think about whether it requires a warrant or not. And depending on the type of place, whether it is public or private area, you may need a warrant or not. So in a private place, you need a warrant to enter the private place. So let's look at case 1. Of course, for investigation purpose, even though it is for investigation, if it is a public place, then you don't need a warrant. Of course, for search and seizure and for some criminal law procedure, you need a warrant. But for launching the drones, you don't need a warrant. So a search warrant is not required, even though it was for investigation, since it is a public place. And the second case, in a public place, the police, for prevention, uses drones. So in that case, a warrant is not required. And third, for investigation, drones are used in a private place. In that case, of course, you must have a warrant. Of course, because of some timeliness, then you can request a warrant later. But if you need some time, if you need enough time to get a warrant, then for investigation purposes, you need to have a warrant. And the last case, for prevention, you used drones. The police used drones in a private place, but basically it was not for investigation, but for prevention. So if in that case, if you need a warrant for patrol or prevention, then launching drone for every purpose will require a warrant. So using drones for patrol or prevention doesn't look like requiring a warrant. So in a public place, basically a warrant is not mandatory. This is my opinion. And in a private place, in particular for investigation, of course, warrant in advance or post-warrant are necessary. And in a private area, if you find an illegal opium cultivation site accidentally, then you need to have a warrant later. So if everything requires warrant in advance, then every time you launch a drone, you need to have a warrant. So for patrol and prevention, you don't need a warrant. But if you find some illegal opium cultivation area while carrying out prevention activities, then you need to request a warrant. So in the United States, the police uses helicopters to crack down on the illegal poppies cultivation. So if the illegal cultivation site is accidentally detected, it doesn't require a warrant. So if some area is open in the sky, then whether it be a private or a public, without any equipment, just with some optic cameras, if you can detect opium illegal cultivation area in the United States, you don't need a warrant to search it. But if there is an equipment or some turf on the farm, then some equipment including special cameras can be used for search. So this is the perspective of the US court. And criminal procedure law includes many procedures and the perspective of the Supreme Court and the purpose of the launching of drones. So depending on them, we classified the usage of drone into 4 scenarios. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, this is not an official opinion of the National Korean Police Agency or the KNPU. So it is my personal opinion. So a warrant in advance is mandatory for the case number 3, and for case number 4 we need a post warrant. But indeed, judges may be different from the court. But so far we have any judges or cases regarding these cases. So considering all these data and cases in a public area, whether it is for investigation or prevention, using drones doesn't require a warrant. But in a private place, for prevention, you need a post warrant. But for investigation, then you need a warrant in the first place before investigating. So a warrant is very important. And even though we have a technology, if you don't have a warrant, then such technologies could die out. So before the development of technologies, we need to think about legal issues and how to utilize it on the ground. And our goal is to make sure that such technologies can be utilized on the ground. Thank you very much, Professor Kang, for your presentation.
정말 저한테
Well, next presenter is someone that I really want to hear from.
경찰 출동 내 치안 드론 인력 양성 방안에 관해서 서울경찰청
The topic is establish and develop police unmanned vehicle. Dr. Ingo Lee will make the presentation. Please welcome with a big round of applause. As introduced, I am Lee Ingo from the Special Operations Unit. I thought there would be many people here, and I was a bit nervous, but fortunately, no, there are very many familiar faces. Since you know me already, I don't think I need to make the presentation. You know me so well. Well, I'm being filmed? Okay. Well, the topic that was given to me is a little bit different from what I have prepared. So I changed the topic a bit. And I know that you know what this is about, so I will skip over this slide. In the past and up to the present, when you do police work, the police will use his physical body to work. And the head of Hayang Station would tell your staff to say, no, go and do it, right? Just do it with your body. And Mr. Lee, Dong-Gyu Lee, Professor Lee, may have a different approach based upon your presentation. Well, thus far, no, police have to go to the site directly. But what about the future? The people that we respond to, we don't need to actually be in contact with them. We don't directly approach them, or they don't approach us. Well, in the past, people would steal from other people. No, you had that experience, right? No, if you go off the bus, you would have your pockets all written, and your wallet will be stolen, right? There's another person who I know who just came in. Right. You directly experienced theft, right? But these people are not in there anymore, and now most of the crimes are related to IT, voice phishing, and person in the cyber unit, crackdown unit, went to the Philippines and caught a criminal. And people who are, saying that, and the person caught was a former policeman, right? That was quite weird. And at our special unit, no, we would go to the site directly, and that is how we train. We train how to shoot guns, and when we arrest them, this is how we do it. And we also do stakeouts, and we have to eat no fast food. And when you're training, look at our faces. Do we look nervous? Compare the face here. Actually, when you actually come face to face with the criminal, it's not your expression is like that. It's like you're about to die. And I have my boss here, and if in case of our special forces, if you go to the site, if we are told to go to the site to do a crackdown on the terrorists, everyone will be scared like that. So we have to do a crackdown, and we have to catch them, and in the process, we get hurt. And we have to go to the hospital riding in the ambulance. We get hurt like that. That is reality. If you look at other cases in other countries, this is a very nice car. Our special unit has a car similar like this. In Mexico City, the head of the police force there was going to work in this car, and he was bombarded with bullets. He didn't die, fortunately, but some people died, and innocent bystanders also died as well. And this happens frequently in other countries. And several days ago, in El Salvador, the head of the police came to our country, and what he said was that, you can even hear rifle shots, automatic rifle shots in the city, on the streets, frequently. Now, we don't really have people going to the hospitals because of being shot, but in other countries, maybe more frequently than Korea. And if that many things happen, people policemen cannot retire safely. Many people will have died. And I do hope that in the future there are no people getting injured and no one getting hurt or dying. So what can we do about that? And right now we are sending off machines before people do. And in case of the special units and the emergency units, they would throw something like this to the site, and it has a camera attached, and it will look at the situation in that space to evaluate the situation before the actual people go in. So if you attach this to the wall, you can see dots on the screen, and that would be a person expressed as a dot. And if that's moving, that's a terrorist. If that's not moving, it's the victim. And if you get a health check, you have an endoscopy check, right? And this is the same principle. And if you attach that, the terrorist will move here and there, and you can push this in between the door to evaluate the situation. And this equipment, we do not have it in Hwayang unit because it's expensive. So only the special unit can use it. And it would be nice if the ordinary police stations have it, right? You don't have that, right? You don't have this either. This is more expensive. Only the special units have access. But citizens, if they are faced with difficulties, They do not want a police who have a taser gun. They would want a police that looks like that, who can solve everything like a hero.
우리가 전부 쫓겨나고
And maybe in the future, there will no more be no human police, but rather robot police. So we have to be very aware.
이렇게 넘어가보자.
So let's jump to the next dimension.
사실상 우리가 경찰에서 먼저
And actually, the police
일찍 시작을 했습니다.
did start this initiative earlier. You may not know that. We started in the early 2000s.
그 아이디어가 있어가지고
And we started off with this idea, but actually we did not get the fruits.
앞장서가지고
But actually the head of the army
분야에
set up the system for drones and robots
전력화하고
and made the drone bot combat.
많이 양성해서
And it has fostered a lot of units, and this system is quite developed. And there was a exhibition in COEX not long ago, and drone bot systems related to the military is very well advanced, and there have been many investments made in that side. But in the police side, you know that it's not enough. So Korean National Police, we started off with a robot searching for missing persons. Well, prior to that, we did apply drones a bit. And what is notable is the police in Chungcheong, North Chungcheon and Southern Gyeongnam area police. They're quite active there. You know him well. Some people that personally was personally committed to pursue these programs. And he started off, he worked on it in the Korean National Police University. And thanks to the efforts of the selected few and to the foresight or the vision of leaders, the units in Chungbuk and Gyeongnam area are applying these systems a lot. But we are still way behind the military. Humans conducted R&D and created this shape, but the performance was not satisfactory. So in Time Drone, applied it to Gyeongnam and Hangang Patrol, 2 units were dispatched and operated, and this was made by Yukon. And the pilot cabinet is not so good, and there were some crashes, and people do not really like to pilot this. And this one here, the most recently, is quite nice, and it's well utilized. And in order to utilize this by the police and the firefighting departments for search and rescue, it doesn't fly well. It should, but it doesn't really fly well. And the fire department have it, but are not using it. And in the case of the police, we do not want to buy it anymore. And so applying drones is not easy. So these are the challenges that we are facing in the search and rescue drones. So for the future, what is our desire or hope? So that's what the Army is doing. Drone and robots should be dispatched earlier than us, before the police or the special forces are dispatched. The drones and robots will go there and evaluate the situation. So what I would like to say is that in terms of transportation patrol or supervision and etc., and the fixed wing type is necessary. And right now, everyone is doing multi-copter, and the police right now should conduct more research and investment into the fixed wing type. And I hope that Professor Kang-woo should play an important role and take more interest in the fixed wing type. And also carrying cargoes and working on the ground as well as working on in the air. That sort of drone is necessary. And as for the drones for finding missing persons will be more developed. Let's say there's a missing person, and if you send out a drone, you think that you would find that person. But in case of Chungbuk area, no, only 1 out of 10 cases are found, even when you use drones. Not only that, no, you use very small racing drones. In the summer, there's a lot of trees and leaves, and the big ones flying on high altitude cannot see. So you should use, only small drones are used that can go in between the trees at low altitude is used. So drone operators, they need to know how to utilize smaller drones. And this costs 55 million won, and this one right now costs about approximately 2 million won. And if you make it yourself, our special units can make it at around 500,000 won. I know that in order to get more distance from it, and you need to have a larger size of drone. But the key to our direction is not a big drone, but rather a smaller drone. No, big drones, no, it's well developed. And I do feel that we need to utilize smaller drones more, and we need to have more people who can pilot the smaller drones. And it is not easy to pilot them. So there should be more training with regard to operation of the drones. We have the 13 subunit within our special operation unit. There is Seongnam-dae, which works at the Blue House, and I don't know if you've been there, but still, this is Black Hornet from Norway. This is a very small helicopter that can fit into your palms. But the cost is about 100 million won or 150 million won or so. A person there, officer there, asserted that you need to have a racing drone, and they purchased 3 units. Then they do a model combat. They win every time because they would send out these drones, and they would evaluate the situation. They would find out where everyone is hiding, whether it's during the day or whether the combat is held during the day or night. They win every time. And this is something that the police needs, even if you're doing some crackdown on people or criminals. No, you could send this out and do an observation or surveillance, and you would take pictures, capture all of the images. So you can go slow. You don't have to do a buzz crackdown. So if you have a drone like that on site, it can be well utilized and helpful. With more development of technology, there are drones that actually look like birds, or drones that look like flies, insects, or bees. Here, this is the site, and if you go to the site, you could see a very interesting video clip. So the former girlfriend has a new boyfriend, and he would send this drone, and the girlfriend, they would observe and filming his girlfriend changing her clothes, and then later on the toxic would insert a toxic into the fly and kill the new boyfriend using this drone. So this is quite scary. And 5 years on, you would have to really look at the flies that is flying nearby you. Is it a real fly, or if you no, do not have good relationship with people around you, you should kill every fly that is nearby you, because it may be toxic.
이런 사건도 생기지 않을까?
This sort of crime could happen. A person dies and you don't know the reason why. There's no evidence. Of course, criminals can use this, but also, to the contrary, we can utilize these kind of drones as well.
여러 가지 이제 다목적 곤충 모양의
There are multi-purpose drones and drones that are shaped like insects.
코엑스에서
And in the exhibition in COEX, you had drones that have guns attached. At our special unit, soon we will have drones with rifles attached.
지금도 이제 그 드론으로
Right now,
보시면은 이 화면으로 해가지고
using this screen, you will send it to the inside of a building and observing what's inside. And the person here does that well. Such training is done using the racing drone. Before, a person would go in and check the situation with your own eyes, but you could get killed by that. But if you send in a drone, which costs about 500,000 won, to observe the situation, based upon that, you can do a strategy and make a plan, and then attach a gun to the drone, and then go in later. And you do a survival game.
이 레이싱 드론에 모이 이제 총을 달아가지고
A model gun could be attached to the racing drone, and the other side, we won the other side. And this would be the future of combats and wars in the future. In the Aden Bay, we could apply that as well in combats. And this is something that the ocean police needs. At our special units, we can wear these suit drones as well. So this is Spot, the robot dog. Recently, we held a meeting within our unit, and if budget allows, we will soon introduce it to examine or observe explosives. Right now, we are wearing protective gear and filming X-rays, but on the object. But now the robot would go and film the X-ray to check for explosives. And I think that these kind of robots will be used more on site, and the heads of the units or police stations, they don't speak back to you. They are not lazy, and if you charge them with batteries, they'll do anything you tell them to. And when you search the underwater, you don't need to have all the equipment worn by a person. So what I'm saying is that at a special unit, the reason why we want to introduce drones is that we don't want to get people hurt, we don't want people to die, and we want to succeed in our task. And we have the head of the operations, and he is every day he is training with the drone. On the sky, we have drones flying, and on the ground, we have robots. And on the water, we have ships and unmanned submarines operating. In all areas, drones will be applied, and necessary education, legal basis need to be there. And what's most important is the passion of policemen on site. And the supervisor should identify those talented human personnel and provide necessary support. And the police university is doing a lot of activity in this area. And also, there should be support from the citizens, and this should continue on. And I told you that this is what I would like in the future. There's no questions, Q&A? Okay. If you want to ask questions, we will entertain them.
파주에서
Yes, from Paju.
감사합니다. 역시 제 팬을 일부러 제가 불렀습니다.
You are a very cool guy. Thank you.
임걸 대장님 수고하셨습니다.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
하지만 저희 일상생활에서
In our daily lives,
친구들을 직접 만날 일은 없겠죠.
encountering a SWAT team seems far off, and we should not in the situation where you can meet directly with the SWAT team. So the part 1 is concluded. So we are going to have a 20-minute break, and we will start the part 2 of the conference at 3. So we will resume the conference at 3 with the 5th presentation regarding drone weapons and how to use simulators for virtual training for drone operation. And also the previous speaker talked about legal issues of using drones, but in the last presentation, under the theme of illegal opium poppies cultivation search system with drones and AI will be covered. So more presentations will be delivered, so we will have a 20-minute break, and at 3 we will resume the conference. Thank you.
우리 연사님들 앞으로 잠깐 나오시겠습니까? 사진 한 컷, 즉 인증샷 한 컷 찍겠습니다. 우리 연사님 또 분야 토론하실 분들 오셨으면 다 같이 나와 주시기 바랍니다. 얼굴에 빛이 반사돼서 네네네네 감사합니다. 저희도 시작할까요?
Would you like to start the second part of the conference? Mr. President, we are going to start.
아까 진행됐던 컨퍼런스
So we'd like to resume the conference. So at conference room number 2, International Robot and Untitled Conference will take place. So participants outside for a break, please make your way to the hall. And as soon as you are here, we will start the session.
진행되던 컨퍼런스 2부 다시 시작하겠습니다.
The second part of the conference
들어와 앉아 계시면 바로
will take
시작하도록
place, so
하겠습니다.
please make your way to the conference room and we will start the session.
네, 그러면 저희
Then, without further ado, we'd like to start the second part of the conference. So the first presenter will deliver a presentation under the theme of the application of drone simulator. So Director Kwang Mo Chung of Korea Electronic Technology Institute will deliver the presentation. Please welcome him with a big hand. Good afternoon. I'm from Korea Electronics Technology Institute. I'm Kwang Mo Chung. The theme of my presentation today is the application of drone simulator. The previous speakers' presentation's themes, compared to their theme, my theme is a bit casual. So I'm going to talk about what we can do with a drone simulator.
여러분 시뮬레이션이라고 하는 것은 어떻게 이해를 하고 계십니까?
So, how do you understand about the drone simulator? What do you think the simulator is? I believe simulation is about simulating environment, natural environment and engineering environment by calculating mathematics, therefore creating results. That is a simulation. So sometimes a flight crashes, and recently rocket Naruto crashes as well. So to investigate such accident issues, we use simulation and simulators. It doesn't require real-time characteristics. But if an accident, but such accidents and natural environment and accidents can be analyzed by simulators. And metaverse, its scope is very wide, so simulation technology is applied to the metaverse.
이거 왜 안 넘어가죠?
How do I go forward to the next slide? Mr. Producer, do we have him here?
다음으로 안 넘어가.
컨퍼런스룸 2번에 PD님 밖에 계십니까? PD님, 이게 좀 안 넘어가서 지금 이미 시작했거든요.
왜 다음으로 안 넘어가죠? 아, 예, 예. 그래서 과거에는
So in the past, when we talk about drone accidents, there were many reasons behind it. First is discharge of batteries, fuel cut, or overheating motors or amps, and uncontrollable GPS or sensors, or controllers out of control, or mechanical fault or breakdown of the flight, and human errors. So in these orders, accidents happened. But recently, trends have changed because technologies for drone flight have advanced a lot. So the drone itself is very stable in a mechanical manner. So man-made errors or mistakes or low-skilled operators could cause accidents. So we need to solve this issue. Then how? Of course, launching drones as many as possible would be good, but with low-skilled or unskilled operators, drones are highly likely to crash, which costs a lot. So that's why we need a virtual training for operators. That would be the best optimized way.
그래서 이제 또 보면은 상당 부분은 이제 이륙 예착륙
And most drone accidents occur during takeoff and flight, and that same goes true for the aircraft. So 5 minutes for takeoff and 5 minutes after takeoff and 5 minutes before landing. So the same goes true for soccer match. So 5 minutes after beginning and 5 minutes before the end. So I believe 5 minutes are very important time for it. And to put drones into a disaster site, it requires hugely advanced technology. It doesn't require just launching a drone. It requires a huge amount of training so that we can put drones on disaster sites. And to that end, and to operate a drone in the reality, you need a lot of cost and time. That's why we need a virtual training for drone operators. Then why? So I have talked about why, and let's look at the market size. This is a North America UAV simulator market size from 2016 to 2027. It is growing up, so by 2027, the market size will be more than $2.2 billion.
드론이
Then why such accidents happened? And currently we are constructing underground roads, and there are some limitations in constructing more roads. And going forward to solve traffic issues, so by 2022, Ministry of Transportation has a plan to launch UAM, Urban Air Mobility. Then a lot of drones will be launched in the skies, and a lot of drones will fly the skies. So amongst those many drones, how a drone for specific purposes can be operated among such many drones for mobility. So after 2025, that would be a huge problem. So ground transportation traffic, just like ground traffic, in the sky, there will be the same huge amount of traffic will be created. So AR, VR, digital twin, cyber physical system, and the metaverse. So to explain all these concepts with just one picture, I drew this one, but it was not an easy task. As you know, AI and big data, I believe all of you are well aware of this, so I will skip it. So modeling and simulation, as I mentioned before, in a physical world, physical world can be interpreted and analyzed with mathematical factors, and metaverse is a very wide concept. And digital twin is a replica of the real world in the physical space. So using IoT, so the real world is copied into the virtual world. Anyway, the real world is copied into a virtual world, but in a digital twin, With actuators, you cannot control the real world. That's it. That's the end. So it is quite confusing concept. Then what is CPS? And digital twin and CPS are almost similar with one another, but CPS, that stands for Cyber Physical System, is made as digital twin. But if you take an action in a virtual world, then such action can be reflected into the real world. And without it, these two concepts are almost same. Then what is the metaverse? NFT and blockchain and other technologies are converged, so including immersive UI, to communicate, to make the real world and virtual world communicate with one another. That is the concept of the metaverse. And there are many things you can do with simulators. Just like Rocket Naro, HILS or SILS, with them you can discover the causes, you can find reasons of the failure, so you can detect faults. So HILS or SILS should be embedded by design. So the reason for the failure of Rocket Naro was related to fuels and ignition. So these issues could be analyzed, and a simulator can do FC simulation. Flight controller is the most critical part of a drone. Hexacopters or quadcopters, wings, pitch, roll, and yaw are controlled by the controller. So with a simulator, you can check whether a drone works properly or not, and you can verify it works well. And component assembly and function and the assembly process are part of manufacturing of a drone. And in the process of manufacturing, a simulator can be used. So using a simulator, you can monitor assembly and functions and the process of manufacturing. And if there is an error or a crack on a drone that you cannot see with your naked eye, but that could affect actual flight. So using a simulator, you can solve such issue. So with a simulator, as you can see on the slide, you can find a broken winglet, a broken propellers. So you can find some damaged parts that you cannot see with your naked eye using simulators. So you can find there are abnormalities on the propeller. So to that end, you should use propellers. And gas and air channel dynamics, or with and physical engine and crash simulations can be also done by a simulator. So it is a part of physics. So you can do and practice a physics experiment with a simulator. For example, a wind blows between buildings, then you can analyze the effect of such winds blowing from the buildings. And next is about AI. For a drone to collect AI data, for a drone, collecting an AI data is very hard. For example, a drone during the flight should be able to take a photo of another drones. So with such data, you should do recognition work. But currently, a photo of drone taken by a drone is hard to find. There are a lot of photos taken by a drone of land, but it's hard to find photos taken by a drone of another drones. So to create such data requires a lot of time and money. But with data augmentation, a drone doesn't have to take a lot of video footages and photos. You can create it with just drone data augmentation. And for example, a trajectory flight, you can set a route for a drone, and you can give an order to a drone so that it can make a turn and to come back to a starting point. And you can set a destination. Then you can set a destination point, and a drone cannot automatically reach those destinations. So to complete a mission, a drone must to go above the mountain, and it should offload some freight, and it should fly again to come back to the starting point. So it is a process of a mission. So it can be also done by a simulator. And group flight, I believe all of you are well aware of this. So group flight and drone, through a group flight, you can show a drone simulator show. And also a drone simulator is required for mission training. Mission training activities include fire training. So there is a fire, as you can see on the screen, and with a net, four drones working together and catch a person falling from the building so that they can save a person's life. So drones will be able to work together, and with a search drone, it can be operated in an operation site. And also, if there is an issue in a electric pylon, then you can use a drone for fix the issues. It cannot be done all at once automatically. It requires training so that drones can practice those works. Let me skip this slide. And this is about FC, so flight controller. If you have a FC, and you can find a simulator here, and they can be integrated with the real world. So with an RC controller, through FC controller and simulator, a drone can be connected to the real world. And you can see the picture above. It is a picture of a drone simulator developed by Epson. If you wear a Google glasses, then a drone pops up. and the drone flies surroundings, and if there is a wall, then the drone could crash into the wall because it uses physics. But without it, it goes through the wall. Then it could be a game, so it is meaningless. So a drone should be able to be crashed into a wall and should falling down, so that an operator makes sure that a drone is not crashing with the wall. So this was co-developed by Epson and DJI. So this is another solution. And recently, in the United States, Al-Qaeda carried out an attack to kill some people. And that was not done by just one person. So for takeoff, after takeoff, there is an operator who is in charge only of takeoff. And there are some operators who are in only charge of communications. And there is another operator in charge of landing. And some operators are only responsible for changing the rotation of cameras. And when footages are coming through in real time, another operators recognize and detect specific people. So, to launch and operate a drone, a group of 4 or 5 is required. So 4 or 5 members should work together for simulation. So such simulator is very costly, and in the United States, the simulator market is very huge, and I believe the Korean simulator market is not as big as the US one. So with this scale of simulator, you can do a remote operation. Then how can we use such drones? Drones are easily accessible and they are widespread, and it is very small and it is controllable, and it can go unmanned, and it can detect, identify, track objects, and it can automatically fly. And for a terrorist, drones would be a great tool to carry out an attack. So we need to find ways to defend from those attacks. So we need to be able to detect drones trying to attack us, and we need to establish a database, and we need to be able to identify whether a drone is trying to attack us or that drone is coming to us accidentally. So we need to carry out attacks. We need to think about NTD drone, but the number of those drones is huge. There are a lot of drones out there. Recently, I heard the news about the development of a stealth drone. There's no way to catch the stealth drone. So in the GOP area or the DMZ area, you cannot detect such drones with radar because it creates almost no noises. So to solve such issues, we have been carrying out some projects. For example, if a specific drone comes into your area, if you are able to divide it into 3 areas, including weight, if it is heavier than 5 pounds or 10 pounds, and if you are able to find out the intent of operator and the altitude of drone, those data should be stored. And with stored data, you should find out what this drone is. Then you may have about 243 scenarios. Do you think we can respond to all these scenarios? I don't think so. Of course, we cannot create 243 scenarios, and there's no way to respond to all these scenarios respectively. That is why we need training. We need practice. But we cannot practice 243 times. If a missile is launched, that would be a problem. And if a jammer is activated, then our communications network will be paralyzed. So there is no way. That's why we need to do practice virtually using simulators and simulation. So simulation is the only way to solve these complex issues. So in conclusion, there is a project under the theme of Live Virtual Constructive was announced. Live means launching a drone, and virtual means launching a drone using a simulator, and constructive means using NPCs, commanders and operators create a military scenario. So using LVC, a virtual war scenario is created for training. So simulation is the only way to solve such issues. So if a missile is launched, then your shoulder would be hugely hurt. So it costs a lot, and it could create some collateral damages. So LVC, virtual training, would be the best way for training. So with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation. So if you have any questions, please go ahead.
질문 없으시.
No questions? Then I'd like to wrap up the presentation. Thank you.
전자기술연구원 정광무
Yes, that was a very excellent presentation. Thank you. Now we'll hear about drone weapon systems and countermeasures. Lee Dong-gyu from Autonomous Police Education Center will make the presentation.
이동규 센터장님께 뜨거운 박수.
Please welcome the speaker with a big round of applause.
네,
Good afternoon. I am the director of Autonomous Police Education Center, Lee Dong-gyu. I will be talking about drone weapon systems and countermeasures. So there has been a lot of research on drones and its application. So let's look at this slide. Drone, as you know, in terms of market and concept thereof and purpose and technologies, there are many developments in these areas. So the growth of the market and the technology leads to more threats as well. If you look at the specifics, crimes and terror and accidents arising from drones, these are considered to be the major three threats from drones. So in Korea, in terms of illegal filming by drones, and due to the collision or dropping of the drones, there are impact on people and property. Thus far, there has been no terrorism in Korea, but in other countries that did happen. So there was a Saudi oil field attack, which you may be aware of. This gave a big shock around the world. But prior to this, there were other attacks. There were continuous attacks, but many people were interested. But actually, a Saudi oil field was attacked and there was stoppage of production. And people thought that the threat of drones was quite serious. If you look at the right side, Kasef-1 was the drone that was actually dispatched in the attack. So if you compare Kasef-1 to the existing weapon system, if you compare it to Tomahawk, per unit, it's about $1.3 million, and development cost was about $11.2 million. And you can see the other characteristics. And in conclusion, the effect, the drone, if you conduct a drone attack similar to the Tomahawk attack, you can do it at a lower cost and relatively easy technology. You don't really need any launch bases in order to conduct the attack with the drones. So, threat by drones. Considering the low prices and technology development and limitation of response, these threats will be increasing. If you look at the technology side, in terms of speed, flight distance, noise, control distance. So all of these technology developments is linked to the increasing threat of drones. In case of jammers, drones using anti-jammers is possible now due to the development of technology. So that in itself is a threat element. So among these situations, among these terrors and other threats, so there are drones also can be used as weapons. So what are some of the characteristics when drones become weapons? As mentioned, drone is easy and useful in terms of price. There are many benefits, but the general drone itself has little utility. Apart from operating the drone as a hobby, if you attach a camera, a carrier, or a weapon, in such a case, the utility of drone is created. So depending upon what you attach to the drone, the purpose differs. So this is a category of attaching a weapon on a drone: fixed wing type, rotorcraft, and VTOL drone. So depending upon different types of drones, you can attach weapons. In case of fixed wing, it has advantage in terms of speed, flight time, and flight distance. In case of multicopters, it's convenience of operations, low price, and precision control. In case of VTOL, it's a middle ground between fixed wing and rotorcraft. And I guess the situation differs according to the characteristics or the shape of the craft. So these are the attack types. So there is a direct hit type, so direct strike, and weapon-mounted type. In case of direct hit type, a specific weapon or bomb can be attached or mounted on the type, and the drone will be directly striking the target. In case of the weapon-mounted type, weapon will be mounted on the attached to the drone, and it will be used for attack purposes. There are limitations, no limitations to what can attach: missile, bombs, firearms. And these days, even flamethrowers and electronic blades can all be attached. Taser guns, rubber bullets, and gases. Now, all the weapons that we have, if there's no limitations in the weight, they can be attached. I gave you a simple overview. So if you look at the weapon system of drones, depending on the aircraft type and the method of attack, and depending on the weapon, there can be many different combinations. So fixed wing, multicopter, VTOL, and whether they would be direct hit type or weapons will be attached, or you can divide up the weapons as well. And those weapons can they be drone, or are they explosives, and etc. So there are many different types of combinations. The reason why I'm explaining this is that with regard to the drone weapon system, the CASF-1 type or gun drone, no, we cannot just focus on these two to set up the drone system, response system. So you have to consider many of these scenarios, and we need to have appropriate response. The method of responding to fixed wing type and rotorcraft type will be different, and response will be different for direct hit type as well as weapon attachment type. In case of the direct hit type, you probably saw this in a movie. There was a famous movie called Angel Has Flown. Here, small drones are flying in the air and attacking, doing the attack. So I'm not going to show you the video clip. In case of the direct hit type, so in the exhibition that was held, a lot of these drones were on display. Hero 30, CASF-1, and a bomb drone used for national drills. So attaching a explosive on the drones and doing the attack. As you can see here, they have different attributes. For example, if you use the drone to do a direct strike, and when you're responding to that, depending upon the response, there will be difference in the response time and the accuracy, and what sort of things are remaining. So who sent that drone, for example? So there are different attributes and characteristics. So this is supposed to be a video clip. It's not working. This is a case in Israel. Using the drone, it is spreading gas to the demonstrators. That's supposed to be the video clip. And KAIST we took part in the testing at KAIST using chemicals, and you would have applied drones on the air and spraying germs or gases. That is possible. So if you spray a general chemical, no, it's difficult to get the range that you want. But if you look at the type used in Israel, if you spray it directly on the ground, or if you spread it at an appropriate altitude, you can get the sufficient effect that you want. So if you think about drone, people usually think about multicopters, but there's also the predator type as well as the fixed wing type as well. The Hellfire missile and the drone weight itself is, depending upon the weight, you can attach the weapons. And in case of Korea, the drones can have the rifles and weapons attached. The drone itself is not destroyed, and weapons are attached and attacks from a long distance to the target. And these methods, if you do a small renovation and attach a rifle and etc., that could be possible by even high schoolers in the US. So if you have a distant motor, that would be possible to do. Drone is depending on the aircraft type and the strike type and the the means of strike. So many attack scenarios are possible, and we need to consider this in our response. From advanced military weapons to simple modifications by a civilian. So all these things can be possible, and that is why it is so difficult. Now, a normal person cannot really think about creating a missile, but attaching a very serious weapon on a drone is possible by a normal person. So there is a stronger threat there as well. So, response system. No, other people have talked about that. So, in my presentation, I would like to talk about the analysis after the fact. There are two threats. There are technical response and legal response to drone threats. In terms of legal response, now legal and institutional responses using the existing acts and new acts, starting with the production, use, and permit, and all these processes can be legalized. Setting the routes in the air for operating the drone and getting the authorization for safety as well as for communication with the drones and etc. is something that we need to establish in the law. And that's possible. It's a very complex slide, so you can refer to it later on. Apart from the legal response, there could be technical response. There would be 4 types: detection of drones and discrimination of what that is, identifying and reacting and analyzing it. Well, you can divide it up into detection and response. Basically, it's more divided into 4 parts. You need to have the 4 steps: detection, discrimination, react, and analysis. And there are technical or other things that we have to consider for each of these steps. Well, due to time constraints, I will be very brief. Well, these are the issues here. If a drone, similar to the attack in Saudi Arabia, attacked a place in Korea, can we respond to that? There are many anti-drone technologies. As other people have mentioned, there are many technologies out there, but you need to do a lot of tests, and we have done a lot of simulations, but it is very difficult to apply it. There are net guns, defensive drones, and eagles, and local defense systems set up. Many systems and technologies are being developed, but we have our limitations. So there are 3 issues here. First, the detection range and distance is not easy. Drone is not a normal aircraft. You have to use the normal radar right now, but thus far, even if you have a very good performing radar, it's very difficult to go beyond 5 kilometers. So you can only respond within 2 to 3 kilometers. And even if you respond, you don't know if that is a drone that has been approved or not. It is a good drone or a bad drone. We don't have any system to identify it or distinguish it. The system for this identifying good drones, we don't have that yet. Even if you can, so let's say you detected a drone, and then if you feel that it is a threat to your facility, so what is the response time? 36 seconds to within 20 seconds. So within 20 seconds, can you alarm the response system and then directly hit or destroy the drone? That is not possible. In case of large aircraft, you can detect it in a very far away, several 100 kilometers away. And in case of drones, if it's attacking, if something is flying within a power generation facility, it is very difficult to respond to it. Lastly, as for the countermeasures, we don't really have an appropriate response system as of yet, due to many limitations. Thus far, as I told you, we don't have an appropriate countermeasures. We are promoting it, and we are developing responses, but thus far from our perspective, we don't have a perfect response system yet. Then what to do about it? So how do we defend against weapons and guns? We only think about the physical defense. Well, that's impossible. What about you guys? Do you have to have always a helmet on your head to defend against guns? No, we have. So in that sense, we have to not only think about technology, but also we need to think about the legal and institutional side as well. Of course, in terms of technology development, we need to continue to make our research and do the studies. And last thing is about drone forensics. At our institute and Hancom co-developed this, and we are nearly in completion. And as Mr. Zhang mentioned, the reason drone crashes and a lot of accidents happen, small and big. And if you know there are many accidents happen, why do they drop from the air? You said 94% of them, you mentioned, is due to human error. And I did crash many drones, but I don't know if it's my fault or it's the fault of the machine itself. So in case of drone forensic, is when a drone crashes or in accidents happen, it's about collecting the necessary information to find out the reason. So this is a drone forensic system. It's divided into live forensic and non-live forensic, and it's about radio wave analysis, controller analysis, and digital forensic, and etc. And among them, this is the forensic algorithm. And our area of interest here is that the drone which have been crashed or damaged, the FC, the flight controller, the central memory, and the central control equipment, we need to have the flight information, the altitude and sensors value. We need to extract that and analyze it. And if so, through AI, if we do a lot of learning, we can find out the reason for the crash of that drone. And we felt that that was possible, and that is why we developed this. We conducted a lot of experiments. I'm not sure if this topic is relevant, and this is a test that we did. For example, a drone has been shot by a gun and crashed. And from the drone, if we extract the data, so what sort of characteristics is there? So for example, if the drone collides with the tree, what would be the characteristics? So what happens if there's no charge anymore, or electricity anymore, battery anymore, and then we will analyze that. The reason why I'm showing this is that with regard to the drone weapon system, which we feel is important, is that it's very difficult to shoot it. Even if we use a very good gun, pistol, shotgun, and rifle, we tested with different guns. And basically, shooting the gun and shooting the drone and crashing it is nearly impossible. This is a pistol. We felt that shotgun would be very effective. So we used the shotgun and tried to shoot a flying drone. But the shot distance is too short, and if there's something in between, it's very difficult and to shoot it. Very difficult. So this is the shotgun case. And rifle, HK416. We're able to shoot it. But that wasn't easy as well. So for this test alone, rifle test or gun test, we used about 30 million won worth of drones. And this is the last part of the drone system, which is digital analysis side. So this is for developing the program. Actually, there are some drones that were sent from North Korea. Is it actually owned by North Korea? We haven't really identified that. If you analyze the material, the motor comes from China, the structure comes from Philippines. It's all mixed up. So you can't really identify which country that is from. So we developed a drone forensic program, and that means where did it come from, where did it fly from, and what sort of flight data does it have, and ultimately using this data, you can identify why it has crashed. If you plug in a USB to the drone, now if you connect the Type-C, you can automatically extract the drone data, and if possible, we can uncrypt the encrypted data and get the necessary information and do the analysis. So drone moved in this route, and the pictures that the drone took during its route can be extracted. So there's a timetable. So during which time, if the drone took a certain picture, we can get that data. And the development will be completed by end of this year, and I think HonCom will launch it in the market in the very near future. In order to use it for legal forensics, we need to have legal system set up. So the drone digital forensic reports can be produced as well. Well, that is it for me. So what I've told you is that we need to respond to the drone weapon system, and of those 4 types, I focus more on the analysis side. And this ends my presentation. And as regards the questions, I think I will entertain them during the discussion session. Thank you.
이동규 교수.
Thank you very much, Professor Lee, for sharing your information. Thank you. Next, we have the last presentation, which will be delivered by researcher Yes Lee of LSware. The theme of the presentation is Illegal Opium Search System Combining Drone and AI. In particular, she's going to cover opium puppies, and we started it from May, so I believe she's going to talk about how the project has been going on. Please welcome her with a big hand. Good afternoon. I'm the last presenter, Yes Lee of LSware. Thank you very much for the presentations delivered by the previous speakers. I believe the impact and potential of a drone is limitless. So I'm going to talk about how to combine AI, which is a hot topic in this area, and with drone to search illegal opium cultivation sites. And this is a table of the contents. First, let me touch on business overview. The goal of this business is to develop an intelligent illegal opium search system using drone so that it could be used to solve issues regarding opium cultivation in Jeonnam area. I believe you have heard about opium puppies, and there are opium puppies and ornamental puppies, and I believe this is not well known for the public. And for an ordinary people, it's very hard to distinguish ornamental puppies and opium puppies. And from April to June, when opium puppies bloom, we put a lot of police manpower to identify and search for such illegal cultivation systems. With drone and AI, if we are able to use drones to put them on the site, it would be less than the burden of the police, and our goal is to automate this process. And you can see the current status of crackdown on Jeollanam-do province on illegal opium sites. So as you can see, in Jeollanam-do province there are a lot of illegal opium cultivation areas that have been covered by the media a lot. Then I'm going to talk about why
네.
I'm going to talk about why we are trying to use drone and AI together. In Jeollanam-do province, opium poppies cultivation and trade are rampant and prevalent, but there are a lot of mountains and ocean areas in the Jeollanam-do province, so it is kind of called a enforcement blind spot. So if we use drones and AIs, then we can search such illegal cultivation sites on those blind spot areas. And using drone, you can search such illegal cultivation area fast and accurately. As I mentioned before, there are ornamental poppies and opium poppies, and an ordinary person cannot, with naked eye, identify them. So when opium naturally blooms and reproduces, then residents could be potentially criminals. Using AI, we can search accurately and faster, and using AI and drones, you can identify and detect illegal opium cultivation. This is a business overview. As you can see on the left, using drones, you can collect opium images. And with collected images, GPS information, and drone information, you can create a DB. And image data stored on DB, personal information are very sensitive, so we de-identify such sensitive information. And also we carry out labeling for AI training and learning. So such learning AI modules can be converged with GPS system as well as with our monitoring system to distinguish opium poppies and ornamental poppies. And using this system in Jeollanam-do province, in particular the local governments can carry out crackdown on a regular basis. So if an opium poppy is detected, then a report will be sent to the police in the local area. So from naked eye search to AI-based search, there will be some changes. So in the past, data was insufficient, but using drones, you can collect enough amount of data of photos of opiums, and alarm will be available, and automatic collection will be also available. And by using AI rather than people, you can detect and identify faster, therefore reducing cost, time, and manpower more than 2 times. And at the same time, in the same period of time, you can search more and wider areas for illegal cultivation of opium. And next, I'm going to talk about how the business and project have been proceeded. The basic and critical stage is data collection stage. So ornamental opium and opium poppies and mock poppies were taken for data collection, and we used Matrix 300 and Mavic. And to collect images of ornamental poppies, we went and visited 16 sites, including Changsong Hwangyong River, and we collected about 16,000 pictures of it. And second, we collected images of drug opium. As you can see on the left side, it was really hard to collect information and photos of drug opium poppies because of legal issues and its blooming seasons. But while collecting ornamental opium data, we were able to collect 1,000 photos of drug level opium. And with 2D map data we had, we map it with the 3D photos taken by drones to collect more information. And since we have not enough data to complement it, we created a mock flower of opium. So those mock flowers were realistic so that it was really hard to distinguish them from real flowers. And this is not a blooming season for opium. So we used ornamental opium poppies and mock flowers. And this project will continue until the next year. So during the blooming season of opium poppies, we will be able to take photos and collect image data of real opium poppies. So we asked for cooperation with the National Police Agency.
위해서
In order to store the images, we set up the database. In terms of the altitude, location of the drone, weather, camera information, extension type, and etc. It's divided up into 8 tables. In order for AI learning, the amount of volume or data is important. So we needed a lot of data, and in order to fill up the shortage data, we use the extension method. A case in point is CNN image augmentation method was used to do data extension. The 2D basic data that we had already and the new drone data captured per each image, we created 4 images. So right now we have 14,000 photos extended to 58,000 photos. So if you capture images with drones, the resolution may not be so good, and you need to improve that. And in order to have a better distinguishing, no, we applied other technology. We used SRCNN method to make the low resolution image to make a high resolution image. So the data used by Mavic, we applied this technology to get the resolution higher. The people or cars, if it's disclosed later on, so we try to get rid of the personal information. We use the YOLO v3 model and change the library information so that within the drone data, we did the customization to get rid of certain object. And so during the filming, the object will be such as cars and people will be extracted. And I don't know if you can see it here. So this on the right, you can see that they have been blurred. So we completed the program so that they will be automatically blurred. So in order to do AI learning from the data, we did the labeling. We use the IMG tool. We did the labeling to befit the YOLO model. So from the image, from the object, if you do boxing, you can get the object information and the location information and store it in a text form or XML file. And the image and the XML text files can be used as AI learning data. Before we developed this model with regard to opium, well, what we thought was depending upon the value given as inputs, the final performance would differ. So we conducted a lot of tests. First, the boxing the opium as a group or individually. We conducted the test. If you box it individually or single unit, the value set is quite difficult. But in the box, there will be no data which is less unnecessary data. And within the boxing, there would be more information that we need. So in terms of performance, boxing individually was much better. So we set up this final guideline, and right now we are working on this guideline. In case of the object model, we adopted the YOLO V5 model. In case of YOLO model, in terms of accuracy in detection and speed, it considers that to identify the characteristics and distinguishes the object. It does two things at the same time. And next year we are considering real-time detection. And we have adopted this model in consideration of that purpose. In order to do communication with the drone, we need to have a relay server, integrated relay server, and develop the control software. Future plans. In order to test the outcomes of this program, we set up this test bed we will set up a test bed in South Jeolla province. And we will collaborate with the South Jeolla Police Agency, who are responsible for the crackdown on drug opium. So we will use the drone AI investigation model. And next year, we will utilize it well when there is a lot of opium produced between April and June next year, and we will do demonstration and verification of this program. We will not limit the outcome of this program to Shinan area. We will extend it to other areas, including Shinan and other locations. This can be linked to systems to other entities or agencies, finding missing persons and applying to farming and protecting rare plants. We will not limit it to local services. Maybe we can coordinate with other countries in locations in Mexico or Colombia where there's a lot of drug crackdown. That was my last slide, and thank you for listening.
주식회사 LS웨어의
This researcher is Lee from LS Fair. She delivered the last presentation. Once again, please give him a big hand. Thank you very much. So far, we have had all the presentations. So under the theme, the overarching theme, we'd like to have a expert panel discussion with some panelists. First, we have as long as the stage is rearranged, I'm going to introduce the panelists. First, Professor Seoyeon Park of Yuwon University and member Byung-gu Kim of National Association of Cognitive Science Industries, and Director President Hee-chun Kwon of National Association of Cognitive Science Industries will serve as the moderator. Please bear with us. As soon as the stage is rearranged, we will start the session.
박 교수님.
Professor Park.
네. 전문위원님. 저희 한국인지검사협회가 주최하는
세미나하고 컨퍼런스는 항상
So seminar and conferences hosted by the National Association of Cognitive Science Industries will start and end on time. That's our motto.
그럼 지금부터
Then from now on, we'd like to start an expert panel discussion under the theme of the overarching theme of the conference. The session will be moderated by President Hee-chun Kwon of National Association of Cognitive Science Industries. Thank you very much for staying with us till the almost end of the conference. 7 speakers have delivered presentations under various themes. Thank you very much for your presentations. And with 2 speakers, indeed, we have one more panelist, but due to some traffic congestion, he was not able to join us here today. And today we have SU Jin Lee from Hwayang Police Substation. She's here with us today. She started the conference with her presentation, and Professor Lee also talked about the MZ generation and how to utilize drones for public security. Professor Kang and SS Lee and Director Zhang and Professor Lee and also Researcher Lee covered a lot of themes and issues regarding the application of drones. And I really don't want to say when I was young, but 6 years ago, the first conference was held in 2015. This conference was first held, and in 6 years, a lot of people have been engaging in this area, and I believe all of you here in the floor maybe know the first that drones are this much actively used in the field. And I believe it is the first time where we had very many speakers on site for drone-related presentations. Because of the pandemic, we have had not enough conferences so far. But anyway, thank you very much for your participation. And also, Professor Lee, in the area of public security, has earned a lot of knowledge and experiences, and he shared a lot of ideas of converging his experiences and new technologies. And it was very insightful. And I'd like to ask you to share your thoughts on today's presentations. And thank you very much, all the speakers, for your presentations. And in particular, searching for illegal opium search system and regarding weapon system, I'm going to talk about this. So systems and legal issues were covered by the presenters regarding the illegal opium cultivation. And researcher Lee mentioned before, when I was active from April and until August, we dispatched special agents to crack down on the illegal cultivation. We also launched helicopters to search such illegal cultivation sites. If everything goes well, and if things go successfully, then things went successfully, and we are currently trying to export our models. And if we are successful in this opium, then for weed, for marijuana, which will be bloom in July and August, and I believe our drones and systems could be used for weed detection as well. And we usually exported hardware, including equipment and buses, in the 20th century. But in the 21st century, 911 system and smart assistance, in particular regarding scientific public security, DNA forensic, and forensic methods are exported to other countries. And recently in Guatemala, regarding convergence of technologies, Guatemala president visited the establishment ceremony of the National Police School. And in the United States, which is very huge, so the drone area is very large, so I believe we can be targeting a niche market, and in particular the Southeast Asian market would be an attractive one. And indeed, areas of interest of me is countering drones. In particular, the team manager of SWAT team, Mr. Lee, delivered the presentation. I have been working on counterterrorism area for many years. So soft kill and hard kill. So without attacking it directly, jammings and using information. So killing it without directly targeting it is soft killing, and hard killing is about shooting a gun, and that involves some physical contacts and physical attacks. Indeed, prevention is very important, but up to this point, to counter drones, jamming gun would be the most effective. So jamming gun can shoot frequencies so that drones could be out of control and it could crash. And what is interesting is in a specific area or in a military base, and we hosted the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games. So military forces and our police had jamming guns, but using it was illegal. And last June, the related law and acts were revised. So for public security, jamming guns could be utilized. So ever since the revision, I looked at some information and data. Indeed, in the Incheon International Airport, detection system is under pilot operation. So neutralization or counter drone measures would be divided into third areas: identification and neutralization and detection. So these are connected to chain. So with KAI, so a whole integrated system is under pilot operation, but in Incheon International Airport, only detection service is available. So killing is not available in the airport. The most controversial issue is this. Of course, it can be used for some military bases or for core infrastructures, but if you use jamming gun, you have no idea how long it will affect, and there is little research on this. So regarding jamming system, we have no confidence. So that's why using jamming gun has been postponed. And Korea hydro and nuclear power, and regarding some power plant areas, jamming gun and drone gun and countermeasure systems are in operation. When I was in Ulsan, I visited nuclear power plants. And even if a flight crashes into the NPP, it is safe because the thickness of concrete is more than 1.5 meters. So it's very hard to carry out a direct attack. But if a control tower is attacked or hacked, then just like the Fukushima accident, coolant could not be injected into the core. So that could cause a huge issue. So that's why nuclear power plants should be prepared for possible attacks. And in 2018, there was a fire accident in a power plant, nuclear power plant. So for a national infrastructure, security is very tightened. But for example, dams or oil stations and refinery stations, refinery systems or businesses have not yet been prepared well for possible attacks. And last but not least, there is another area we need to consider. When it comes to counterterrorism policies, we focused on hard targets in the past, which includes major infrastructure, national infrastructure. So NIA or Ministry of National Defense designate such infrastructure as the important facilities, but soft to target, for example, stadiums or amusement parks and department stores or shopping centers. When there is a terror attack, the society and the country as a whole need to think about how to prepare for such potential attacks. So private, military, police, public should work together. Of course, prevention would be difficult, but at this stage, we need to prepare for a preparation system for possible attacks. This is my opinion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments.
그 경험을
So his comment was based on his experience as a police on the field. So if you talk about illegal crops, no, marijuana and opium, and I think no, he said that it could be spread. And not only the police is interested, but also military and the National Information System is also interested in that as well. What's interesting is that 2 years ago, we held a drone conference in Seoul National University. And prior to that, we had some people coming from Aramco. And 2 weeks before that, the drone attack on the oil field in Saudi happened. And after that, there was COVID, and we were not able to hold another conference. And then recently, the Anti-Terrorism Center was set up at the police university. And the counterterrorism is something that many people are interested in Korea right now. And thank you for his comments. And there are many systems set up, and hot kill, soft kill, and many related equipment. And in order to operate them, we need a lot of human resources. So people, students, if they ask professors, no, if I learn about drones, where can I get a job? And I think that Professor Park from University will get a lot of those questions, right? So Professor Park, we'll hear from her about fostering drone professionals. Good afternoon. I'm Park So-young from Yuan University. I would like to talk about 2 things. First, well, since this is a robot conference, I would like to talk about the convergence of robot and drone, and next talk about the fostering of drone personnel. So I'm a professional consultant for the Sejong Future Mobility City, and I've been to the site. And as is the case in the illegal crop situation, let's say, we tested the drones finding an illegal signage. So we talked with people living in Sejong to get them closer to drones. We met with citizens and reporters and experts and talked about how to set up a good smart city. So what we're doing is testing the autonomous vehicles. Every week, the autonomous cars are operated and collecting data. And next year, they said that drones will be applied. So in the city, they will fly the drones, and relevant big data in terms of safety will be tested and collected. And also, there will be technologies combining drone and cars would be combined to set up a program which the citizens can accept. So in that sense, not only drones, but combination with autonomous cars is needed. And tomorrow, what we're going to test is drone delivery. So when food is delivered, so B Drone Company, now I'm giving consulting to that company. And it's like there was a pizza delivery in Sejong. And this time, if you're delivering tteokbokki snack, the robot will take the food and bring it to the final user. So the combination of robot and drone and the relevant technology should be developed as well. The robot and future cars, and we have to prepare for the future along with drones. Second thing is fostering talents in the drone area. So there's drone centers and drone related university departments. So in terms of human resources and courses in universities, we have a lot of them in Korea. And there's a project that we'll do next year, fostering human resources in Mongolia. It's initiated by the Ministry of Education, and I'm going to take part in the program. In Mongolia, we will provide education to people in Mongolia with regard to drones in Mongolia, and not only stop there, we will expand to Kazakhstan and countries in Africa. All these countries want to collaborate with us, and there's also the K-Wave. So K-Wave and satellites and drones and all these technologies will be combined to offer more assistance to other countries. And now we're going to accept that COVID is a part of our life. So in the future, Korea will take the initiative in developing more drones, and also police and firefighting department and the military will also develop more drone in this area, and also the technologies will spread to other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the combination between robot and drone was covered, and pilot projects also she mentioned, and fostering drone experts was also covered by her. So drone attacks and drone related conferences have been hosted with KMPA. So in the area of national police and public security for drone, we have held conferences and seminars for 17 times, and all this has been possible thanks to all of you here today on site. And we will make sure that better programs will be open to all of you. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Any questions from the floor? I believe your presentations were so perfect, so we have no question at this moment. I believe the exhibition hall will end at 5. So please don't forget to visit booth that you are interested in. So the exhibition hall will be in operation for 4 days. So hope you will be able to enjoy the exhibition. So with this, we'd like to conclude the panel discussion and the conference. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your information. Thank you very much for your participation as well. The human history has been developed with the war, spear and shield, drones and counter drones. What will be the end? I believe justice will prevail. Hosted by Korean Association of Robot Industries and co-hosted by National Association of Cognitive Science Industries, 2021 International Robot Untitled Conference will conclude. I'd like to sincerely thank all of you for your participation. Hope you will be able to see you next conference. Thank you.